Husband lied about his entire life, and now I want an annulment. Can I kick him out legally and get him out of my house? I met my husband 4 years ago, just before moving from PA to Girja. Shortly after my move, he followed me, and we fell in love. We lived together from 2015 onward, and in mid-November 2018 we married. Today I discovered that virtually everything he has ever told me or demonstrated about his life was a complete fabrication, from specific medical issues to jobs past, and present to education to family relationships to the claim that his first language was not English to phone conversations that never happened to people he knows die. F you can think it. He has lied about it. We live together, but my name is on the lease and I hold the title on both of our cars. He has some belongings in our home, but most of it has been purchased with money that I have earned over our 4 years together plus money from my personal savings account. I am totally open to letting him walk with all of his stuff, and even signing the older car to him. After a quick internet search, it looks like I might have grounds for annulment of my marriage, on the basis of being seriously misled. Do I? What will I need to be able to prove in order to make it work, and is there anything else I need to keep in mind to aim for an annulment instead of a divorce? He is mentally ill, though quite differently than I was led to believe, and receives STI each month, but that is nowhere near enough for him to live on. What is the legal way to get him out of my house and life with minimal risk, damage, and cost to me? Also, do I look for a divorce lawyer in this situation? Sorry if that's a dumb question. Also, how does custody of pets work? We have 2 kittens we got in July, and I can't imagine separating them. I also can't imagine him being able to take care of them once we're separated, but I don't know if that matters.
Next story.
Husband made cruel jokes about my body, so I took our baby and left. Now he's upset and says I overreacted. So, my husband started making indirect jokes about my body shape ever since I gave birth to our son. At first, I didn't mind a silly joke here and there, but it escalated, and he started doing in front of friends and family. Last week, we were invited by his mom to celebrate at her home. He casually made an offensive joke about my body, and that was the last straw for me. We got home, and we started arguing. I recorded our conversation, and this is how it went. Me, can we talk about what happened at dinner tonight? Him, he was checking his phone, responding nonchalantly, what's there to talk about? It was just a joke. Me, a joke. You think making fun of my body in front of your family is funny? I've just had our baby, and I'm still adjusting to everything. Your comments hurt, you know that, right? Him, come on, it was just a little banter. Everyone laughed. Besides, if you had gotten the husband stitched like I suggested, maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal. Me, I was staring at him in disbelief after this comment, so now it's my fault? I'm the one to blame for your insensitive jokes. Is that really how you feel? Him, I'm just saying things could be different. You chose not to do it. I thought you wanted to feel good again. It's not like I'm trying to hurt you. I just want us to have a good physical life again. After that, we kept going back and forth and ended up taking the baby and moving out. He began complaining about how I took his son away from him, how I was punishing him using our son at TEDx. His family interjected and told me I can't do this to him. It's been days and he's still complaining about what I did, calling it overreaction, and saying that I was taking my frustration out on him.
Next story.
Father's friend kept treating me like a child, so I finally told him I hate him. Now my dad says I went too far. Years ago, my dad met Harold through mutual friends, and they hit it off. I was 18 and in college when I met him, and we never had a close relationship. However, he always seemed to think of himself as a family friend and was extremely infantilizing and condescending towards me. Every time I saw him, I'd try to tell myself it wasn't that bad, only for him to prove me wrong less than a minute later. Harold would disrespect my boundaries, say things like you're not 19, you're a baby while I was talking to other people, and patronize me, my education or my hobbies whenever he had the chance. He always noticed that annoyed me, to which he'd playfully ask if I hated him. I always said no, but only for my father's sake. The final straw came the day Harold interrupted a barbecue to say, I really like you. Even though you're an impolite brat, I was 20 years old. I'd been quiet all day, working on a paper during the barbecue, but replied patiently and politely whenever anyone addressed me. And even if that hadn't been the case, I knew he didn't have the right to talk to me like that. After that, I started making an effort to avoid any events I knew he'd be attending. Yesterday was my father's girlfriend's birthday. They threw a small lunch party at my dad's apartment. I went there with my fiancé and our 6-month-old son. Harold was there. I hadn't seen him in months, but he still talked to me as if I was a dumb child. Never mind that I'm engaged, a mother, and 26 years old. I spent the whole party ignoring his helpful advice about me being too young to get married or be a mom. It helped that most of the other guests seemed to disagree with him. My baby spent most of the afternoon sleeping. There's a bassinet in my old room. He woke up hungry, so I went to breastfeed him and excused myself from the party for a while. I got back to jokes and comments, all from Harold, about how I was probably struggling if my son was managing to leech me away for so long. He went on to interrupt a conversation I was having with another of my dad's friends to question pretty much everything about my parenting. He doesn't even have custody of his daughter, by the way, and to make more comments about my age. I decided I couldn't take it anymore after he asked if I'd thought about giving my baby up for adoption. I got my son and told my fiancé we were leaving. We said goodbye to everyone except Harold. When we got to the door, Harold came to ask why we were leaving. I tried to make up an excuse, but he kept trying to make us stay. After a small back and forth, he jokingly asked if I hated him. And this time I said, "Yes, I do. Can we go now?" He didn't say anything, and we left. On the way home, my fiancé said he was proud of me. My father called this morning to say the opposite, and we had a small fight, but ultimately decided to drop the subject. I'm sure this isn't over, but if it keeps going, it won't be because of me. This is far from my proudest moment, and a small part of me regrets it. But I'm done with that guy.
Next story.
Sister's boyfriend refused to eat the meal I cooked, so I told him to get out. Now my sister is mad at me for overreacting. So here's what happened. I 28 invited my sister 25F and her boyfriend 26M over for dinner. I love cooking and had spent hours preparing this fancy meal. Homemade pasta, a slow-cooked ragu, a salad, and a tiramisu for dessert. I was really proud of it and excited to have them over. When they arrived, everything was fine at first. We sat down, and I started serving the food. Her boyfriend, let's call him Steve, stared at the pasta for a moment, then looked at me and said, "I don't eat carbs." At first. I thought he was joking. But nope, he was dead serious. He goes on about how he's super into keto and carbs are the enemy. Okay, fine, that's his choice. But when I offered to make him a salad or something else on the spot, he refused and said that I should have known about his diet beforehand. This is where it gets weird. He then pulls out a small Tupperware container from his bag, filled with what looked like boiled chicken and broccoli, and starts to eat it at my dinner table while the rest of us are trying to enjoy the meal I spent hours making. I was stunned and honestly kind of insulted. I told him it was rude to bring his own food without mentioning it to me beforehand, and he should have at least given me a heads up. He then goes off about how people need to respect his dietary choices and that I was being controlling by not accommodating his needs. At this point, I'd had enough. I told him, "If you can't eat what's served and won't even let me make something else, then maybe you should just get out." He stood up, said something like, "I'm just trying to be healthy," grabbed his Tupperware, and walked out. My sister stayed for a bit, but eventually left too, saying I overreacted. Now my sister's mad at me, saying I embarrassed her boyfriend and made them both feel unwelcome. My mom thinks I should apologize, but my friends are on my side, saying Steve was being incredibly rude.
Next story.
Telling my son to stop wearing his favorite jacket because it looks gay now, he's upset. And my partner thinks I've crossed the line. I'm a single dad to my son, Oliver 10M. He's with me most of the time and sees his mom every other weekend. He's an awesome kid, creative, full of energy, and he's got his own sense of style that's pretty unique. He loves bright colors, nail polish, and clothes that some people might think are more girly. If I'm honest, I think Oliver might be gay, and I'm totally cool with that. I've always made it clear that whoever he turns out to be, I'll support him 100%. Because of how he dresses and acts, Oliver's had a really tough time with other kids. He got lied so badly at his old school that I ended up pulling him out and homeschooling him. The school wasn't helpful at all, and it was heartbreaking to see him go through that. He struggled to make friends, and it hurts me to see him feel so alone. Now, he's starting back at school in September, and he's really excited about it. But recently, we were at a cousin's birthday party, and Oliver wore his favorite jacket, which is a bright pink, sparkly one that he loves. Some of the other kids started picking on him, saying he looked gay. I stepped in, got the kids to apologize. But it ruined the day for Oliver. I'm worried about how things will go when he's back at school. I've been thinking about whether I should talk to Oliver about maybe toning it down a bit, especially when he's around new people. Not because I want him to change who he is, but because I hate seeing him get hurt and feel like an outcast. I don't want him to feel like he has to hide who he is, but I also don't want him to be picked on or excluded because of it. But then, I feel like a complete AF for even thinking about this. I don't want him to think that I'm ashamed of him, or that he has to conform to be accepted. I want him to feel free to be himself, but I'm also scared of him being hurt by others who don't get it. So, Wibda, if I talk to Oliver about maybe being a bit more low-key with his style?